I saw a Reddit post last night when I couldn't sleep. I feel like nowadays I've been turning to Reddit for answers, which is like not the most healthy thing. I think a lot of Reddit exists in a vacuum and it can be very toxic or just like misconstrued. But sometimes there are posts out there that align with what you're going through almost exactly. And so I wanted to share it because I think it's also um, an invoking piece about Gen Z's behavior towards conflicts in our relationship with like therapy speak and wellness and stuff. I'm an older Gen Z slash young millennial, and I feel like friendships are so much more conditional and serious today. I've outgrown friends as they have with me, and we've parted ways through natural differences as well as departing toxic situations. However, I feel like some things could have been worked out if only discussed and we worked to understand each other's differences. It's great people are going to therapy and creating boundaries, but I don't feel like people are putting in the effort to work through conflict and grow. I feel like people are stating what they want, and if it's not 100% that, or if anxiety is caused without self reflection, then the relationship is thrown out. But it's okay to have conflict. That is healthy. Anxiety isn't automatically a bad thing. I feel like social media encourages this mindset where people remove anything that feels messy or imperfect. But that's not how real friendships work. Conflict is a part of every relationship you'll ever have, even with yourself. So why is it being avoided so much that people throw out the relationship altogether? This can't be healthy. Yeah. Um, I mean, there's always that argument that um, staying in toxic relationships encourages, that pattern of wanting to, trying to work things out and wanting to meet in the middle, but your abuser will always persist no matter what. And of course, people deserve to leave those situations. But I think people are so quick to jump to conclusions that everything is toxic, that even conversation itself is toxic. Like, there are obvious examples of when you should probably cut off someone from your life, like if they tolerate sexual harassment or whatever. It's very weird because there really is no set rules for how a friendship should go. Like, if you just want to ghost a friend without explanation, then that's kind of socially acceptable more so than if you were to do that with a significant other, which is weird to me. I really want to believe that we don't owe each other explanations. Because, sure, you could say that we don't owe each other friendship, but that's the main point of the Reddit OP's post. Like, how are we ever going to build communities? How are we ever going to grow or find conflicts as an opportunity to grow if we're just inconvenienced by even the most slight uncomfortable discussion? Did that make sense? If we are inconvenienced by even the slightest uncomfortable discussion, I don't think conflict should be the norm in relationships. Like, you should know your worth. But it's also never inherently unhealthy. And like I said, I think a contributing factor to it is definitely like all the therapy speak. Like, I'm glad that we are normalizing mental health and wellness, and we are encouraging people to get therapy and to seek out help and to seek out help online, like trickle down therapy. I think that's a great way to make it more accessible to others. But in the same vein, you could easily abuse that and like turn everything into a toxic situation just because it doesn't fit into your standards of what a relationship should be. And you should have standards, but not everyone is going to know what those standards are. Not everyone is going to read your mind. Not everyone has the ability to understand every single word that you mean. And that's what conversations are for. I think for a big part of my life, I've also succumbed to that avoidant personality. And a lot of that stems from how I grew up and the environment that I grew up in. I'm the youngest and I've always been quiet. And so, especially during family conflict, I'd rather keep to myself because that was my way of survival or my way of getting through it. And as I've gotten older and more confident in myself, you know, I'm still quite shy, but I'd like to think that I speak up a lot more. I'm a lot more opinionated and I can stand my ground. And so when I try to attempt those things and I try to share my opinions and just where I'm coming from, it easily gets misconstrued or my side isn't really valued. And that has overflowed to other relationships as well. And yeah, I don't know. Because I've been so silent, I guess I now start to overcompensate by maybe saying too much or over explaining myself out of fear that I am being misunderstood or offending anyone. But even then, when I try to like be as straightforward as possible and try to explain every single thing, that can get misconstrued as well. And so I don't know like what to do anymore because I'm trying to like unlearn a lot of bad patterns about myself, but at the same time, like people aren't willing to meet me in the middle, or when I try to meet in the middle, it comes off as like I'm, I don't know, that I'm not being as understanding as I think I am, or like, sure, I might be quite dry in how I respond, but that's again, that's from me trying to over explain myself and trying to, I overthink about every single thing that I say. So I really don't want people to feel like they're being ignored. But how do I say that without invalidating their feelings and also reminding them that, hey, I'm also not being heard here in this discussion? Like, I get that conflicts sometimes there are right and wrong standpoints. But a lot of the times, it can also just be like miscommunication and Like there's so much nuance that gets lost when you're just communicating with someone through plain text message. And maybe that's on me. Maybe I should call people more. But I don't know. Like I try and I try and I try to not beat up a dead horse and like drag out a conversation longer than it's needed. But also, I don't know. Like, am I just prideful? Am I selfish for wanting people to hear me out as well without them immediately jumping to the conclusion that I'm invalidating their feelings? Because what if I'm feeling invalidated too? Like, it's a two-way street. And sure, you have to pick your battles. But again, a lot of it is miscommunication. And it's like, is this really worth someone's pride or whatever? I just want to add one last note. I'm not asking for pity or I don't want to come off as like an emotional manipulator because that cannot be further from the truth. I cry. I get hurt. I feel like I'm not listened to. I feel like I'm not given the chance to say anything without it being taken out of context. So I'm here and I don't know. People will believe in what they'll believe in, but and as much as I want to convince people and make them see what I feel, there's only so much that I can control about how they react and how they take it in. When I go through stuff like this, I really imagine the worst for myself, which is bad, I know, but there's no worse feeling than being misunderstood and having people paint a picture of you when you're just trying to have a conversation. It's a sucky feeling. And I'm trying to like not let it consume me and define me and, you know, send me into a dark place. But it's hard. And I don't know. I think being seen and being understood is like one of the greatest acts of love that you could do for someone. And I just want that for myself. And I wish that more people could do that for me. But yeah.